commitment. But the thing is, all it takes is a commitment. And I know that we can, if you haven't lived saved for a while, if you haven't made that commitment, when you see the ones that have made that commitment, you think it is hard to live saved, but it's really not. Because all we have to do is make a commitment. And if we commit ourselves, that's all we have to do. It's not a hard thing to do. I know it get hard sometimes. Sometimes it does get hard sometimes, but when you're committed to something, when you made a decision, like Daniel, and when he made the decision to fast for 21 days, he made a commitment. He made a commitment so God heard him when he made the decision in his mind. God had already heard him when he made the decision. He made a commitment. Look at Jude 17, Jude verse 17. Jude is like, well, watch out. Jude, the book right before Revelation, Jude chapter 17. All you got to do is make a commitment. You know, because today, there's so much going on today. Now Jude, the book of Jude, he was talking to the church and warning them of all the false prophets and the Antichrist and the false apostles and the false teachers that were seducing the people. He was giving them warning to tell them to take heed of the things that are being said. And when we see that today, we have to be committed to Jesus Christ, and in our commitment, and making our commitment, it's more than just saying that I'm gonna do this. Joshua, not only if you go back to the book of Joshua also said that if we meditate on the word day and night. Remember that? It said we talked about you should have good success. We got to meditate on the word day and night. That's part of our commitment. And making a commitment to Jesus Christ is more than just saying, I'm going to do this. Just like when we have our New Year's resolution. Sometimes people write them on paper. Sometimes people keep them in their head. Sometimes people put them on a board or post them up in the house, or they may even have an electronic copy on their desktop to remind them of the commitments that they made. But it's really just a verbal or written commitment, and there's nothing there. There's no accountability things to keep them committed unless it's one that's serious about the commitment. I'm sure there's some that's serious about the commitment. They have some put accountability measures in place. But many times when we make a resolution, many times when we make a New Year's resolution, we make a verbal commitment. Many times we don't put the proper things in place to hold us accountable for holding to our commitment. Just like when just like last year, I told you about my regimen, about workout, trying to be healthy. I really didn't put any accountability measures in place. It was all based on my own motivation, and that's why I failed over time. But in Jesus Christ, if we're going to make a commitment to serve Him, it's more than just in a word, or more than just it begins with a decision. It begins with a decision, but it's more than just that. It's some things that we have to do. We have to get to know who Jesus is. If we're going to be committed to Him, just like when one is in a marriage, because Jesus He's the groom and the church is the bride. Amen. The church is the bride, so it is going to be a marriage, and so the bride has to be committed to her husband. And so when two are going to make a commitment to get married, marriage is a commitment. And so just like I said, we have to get to know who Jesus is. If we're going to get married to somebody to make that commitment, we're not going to stay committed to that individual if we don't get to know the individual. That's why a lot of times marriages fail. People get married without even knowing who they're marrying. They're trying to make a commitment to somebody that they don't even know. That's why when things come up and they find out something about the person they didn't know, if they're not committed beyond that, the marriage fails. Now, we're not going to know 100% everything about the individual when we get married. That's right. But the commitment we make, that what we do know, we have to be committed enough to know that, hey, whatever come up, I'm committed to this individual. But with Jesus Christ, with God, He tells us everything about Him that we need to know in our commitment. So we're going to be committed to Him. We have to get to know who He is. And how do we get to know who Jesus is? By studying His Word. And by studying His Word and reading His Word and meditating on His Word day and night. It tells us all about who Jesus is. From Genesis to Revelation, the whole Bible is about Jesus Christ. It's about God. It tells us who He is. It tells us everything we need to know about Him, how we got to serve Him and why He created us, the things that He required. The Bible tells us that's one of the ways we get to know who Jesus is. And not only by reading His Word, because reading about somebody is not enough to really know who somebody is. Now, reading about them, He gives us a lot of information. And we can know enough in reading just a person you've never met before. When someone's hiring somebody on a job, when a company puts out a job description, we're hiring for this position. And so they have to hire somebody, and they want to hire the right person to fit the role, a person to be committed to that position. And so what they do, people send in their resumes. And based on the resume, so you can read the resume to know a little bit about that person. And see, the resume can tell you all about the work history. It can tell you about their education. It can tell you about, even sometimes people put in the resume the goals that they want to achieve. And even sometimes people put the accomplishments they made on their jobs on their resume. Now the resume, people can read their resume, and pretty much by the resume, they know enough about the person to know if they're qualified for the position. But reading their resume is not enough to know. Because it's not just enough to read about somebody. Just like I said, we can read about God. Because there are a lot of people who read the Bible, who study the Bible. There are people who go to the Bible colleges and Bible universities. There are people who teach in the Bible colleges and Bible universities. People they call theologians. They're really knowledgeable in the Word, but they really don't know who God is, because all they've done was read about Him. That's right. That's right. Just like in the job. So when the resumes come in, and so they go through the resume process and the hiring process, and they go through all these resumes, and they pick out certain people that they feel qualified for the position. But after the resume, now we know a little about this person, but we need to know a little bit more before we can hire this individual. So what they do is they begin to schedule interviews. So you can conversate or interact with this individual, talk to him, see him face to face, learn a little bit more about them, what they think and how they think, how to react in a pressure situation, because the interview is a high pressure situation.